Today's topic, building a budget for medical residents. This post has some sentimental value to me. The story that we lead with in this story was actually the main reason and the main story behind why I started working with medical professionals and in particular Gen X and Gen Y physicians. So this is one of my favorite posts. It's also one of our most popular posts by far. I think it's a popular topic, but we also provide a free Excel spreadsheet in there that I think everyone likes to take advantage of. So in this post, we're going to make it a little bit more unique too. So I'm talking directly to you now, but I will actually share my screen once we get into things and I'll walk through the blog post. But I will also walk through the actual Excel spreadsheet that we provide for free as well. So if you're looking for some good budgeting tips or if you need help just creating a budget, stay tuned. That is all coming up next. Let's jump into it. So this is a different turn of events here for us. We want to actually walk through the blog post and guide you right through it. So you'll see me talking down here in the corner, but we're actually going to use the blog post to walk us through. So on this type of presentation, you will see my eyes bounce a little bit. That's okay. I'm trying to keep everything level, but I'll make sure I'm still giving you plenty of eye contact. So let's get started. The first thing that we cover here is in the intro there, the story that I noted. So, a lot of individuals will sometimes ask, why physicians? And I always wish I had this really crazy story to provide to you, or say that I was a physician at one point, or my wife was a physician, or my parents, or my in-laws. None of that's true. We actually just met a lot of great young physicians once we got to the city of Philadelphia. We built good relationships with them. And over time, we just kind of kept hearing their pain points and all the moving parts that they had for life and what was going on. And that is really what excited me and brought me to working with Gen X and Gen Y physicians. So just a little intro story here. But the main goal of this video and this blog post in particular is walking through a budget as a medical resident. We have presented on this actual slide to Thomas Jefferson, which is one of the medical schools, one of the teaching hospitals right here in the city for us. Literally, I walk and I present and then I walk back. We also just presented somewhat recently to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hills Medical School. So, or I should say to their hospital as well. So this is a very popular topic. It's one that's in high demand. And I think that's why this is probably one of our more popular blog posts. So let's jump into it. So for starters, let's just assume that we have an average in-training resident salary. We're going to use $61,000, which maybe for a lot of you, that might be a little bit, it's probably not your PGY 1 year. In Philly, I think I put a note here, PGY 3, you're north of 65,000, and these are terms, if we're kind of just looking at inflation, it's the year 2020 right now when we're walking through this. So somewhere you're in the 60,000 range. If you're maybe in a more rural area, maybe it's lower. Maybe if you're in New York City or San Francisco, maybe that number's a little bit higher. But for all intents and purposes, that should be a fair number to look at. So the first thing you want to account for, and I should say that's money in. So that's the easy part. Now we want to start going through the hard part, money out. So first thing you should account for is taxes. So we have some generics built in here, but for the most part, if you utilize this little link here, ADP, you can actually get a pretty good idea of where your taxes should be. So maybe you're just getting ready to leave medical school and head into residency and you don't have that first salary yet. Here's a good way to build in some calculations. If you're already in training, we'll just pull up your most recent pay stub and that'll be a lot more precise than what our spreadsheet is. And then you can add them into it. So let me just add another item here. If you scroll down, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. If you get down to the very bottom here, right here is the template. So if you click on this, it'll take you right to a link, and all the topics that we're going to walk through are listed out line item by line item in here. And then what you can do, this will open up in our box folder for our business here. But if you click download, you can make that your own. You can change everything, update your taxes, update employer deductions, update all your expenses, make it your own. So that's a free resource to you. So let's go back to where we were here. So then if we come back to money out, we got to pay Uncle Sam. So let's take care of Uncle Sam. That's the first thing we should be accounting for. One thing to note here, if you're going for public service loan forgiveness, the lower you get your adjusted gross income, the lower your income-driven repayment plan is. So IDR, income-driven repayment, encompasses all the different payment plans. So most likely you're looking at IBR, income-based repayment, you're looking at pay as you earn, or repay, revised pay as you earn. Those are the three most common ones out there. You might see an ICR, income contingent repayment, mixed in there somewhere. But for the most part, the main goal is here to keep your income lower by utilizing pre-tax savings to lower your AGI. If you're not going for public service loan forgiveness, this is actually a good time to possibly take advantage of a Roth. Now, it depends on your situation. Keep an eye on your actual, not just your marginal tax rate, but your effective tax rate. So got sidetracked a little bit there, but first thing to account for is Uncle Sam. Next thing to account for is your employer deductions. What is your employer taking out? Most likely health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance. Next things to look at. Do you maybe, if you live in a major metropolitan area, are they taking out pre-tax a transit card for you? Good thing to take advantage of if you take, public transit. Let's think through your 403B, maybe your 401k, 457B. Most likely it's a 403B. Always try to get at least the free match. Not every hospital will give that to you while you're in training, while you're a resident, but just see if they do something to take advantage of. So the next thing to account for in that budget is, first, we got to pay Uncle Sam. Then we have our employer deductions. And now we have, for all intents and purposes, we consider that our net income. And then our true take-home pay is what we always call your net income. So when you go through this here, once those two are out, that's the money that's going to hit your bank account. So that is your net income that is coming to you. And now we have to budget through life. So when we look at some things, first thing up is housing. Do you own a home? Hopefully you don't. While you're a resident, you can make cases where it makes sense. It's not a broad stroke of the brush, but usually you're renting in some capacity because the future is still unknown. If you're renting, maybe you're sharing with friends, you have a roommate, maybe you're living with one of your buddies or one of your new resident friends that you've made in your early training here. Either way, we want to account for housing. Now, in our budget, we put $1,000 per month. In a major metropolitan area, you could be laughing, saying, you're crazy, man. No one pays $1,000 unless you have a lot of roommates. But if you live in maybe a more rural part of the country, that could be a fair number, if not high. So that number will change. Again, make it your own. We do put some notes here on physician mortgages as well. So again, we're trying not to be homeowners right now. But if you have a unique situation, or if maybe it makes sense, just kind of giving some notes here. So something to keep an eye on. Transportation expenses. What does it cost for you to get around? Do you have a car? If you have a car, hopefully it's paid off. We always make the joke, the Honda Accord is the international car, and the Honda Civic are the two international cars for young physicians. That's a good thing because they're pretty reliable, and usually they're paid off by this point. So transportation expenses is something to keep in mind. Going back to the transit card, I put a little note here. A lot of hospitals that are in major cities will provide pre-tax benefits for you to buy, the subway card, or the bus card, whatever public transportation you have. So keep an eye out for that as well. We have a good little inclusion here on why you should not buy a fancy car yet. Hopefully that's not even in your mindset with your in-training salary. Hopefully that stays out of your mind until you're much further into your attending years. So that's a little jab to don't buy those fancy cars once you sign that attending contract either, at least not yet. Okay, so next up is student loan payments. So by this point, with student loan payments, depending on where you are in residency or maybe even fellowship, by this point, we want to at least have our student loans organized, but also likely on a good track for public service loan forgiveness or aggressive payoff. If you're in a specialty of medicine that that you can stay in academia for those 120 payments, let's get those organized and go for that. If there is the probability that you're going to go to a private practice, or maybe you want to go to a private practice, that takes a little bit more planning. We won't get through here, but the main goal is to keep in mind is we're trying to get them organized. If you are going for public service loan forgiveness, much easier to think through. We put a few notes in here already. If you're going for aggressive payoff, it gets a little bit more complicated here. We don't include that in the budget. It's something, obviously, if you're going for, take that number and build it into the budget. But for the most part, in the budget that we built for you, we assume that you're utilizing some income-driven repayment plan. And it's not completely uncommon, even if you are going to go for aggressive payoff once you hit attending, to still utilize some type of income-driven repayment plan while in training. We get a little bit nervous there only because you still have interest accruing. But again, we'll save that topic for another time. Just one little note here. Forbearance used to be a popular term before income-driven repayment plans. Forbearance is, in most situations, we want to avoid forbearance at all costs. Income-driven repayment plans should help solve that need, but the word forbearance should not be in your vocabulary. We want to get that out. Forbearance payments do not count towards public service loan forgiveness. Again, many years ago, before income-driven payment plans, a more common route. Today, we want to try to avoid that. Utilities, I won't bore you with utilities, but you got to pay your electric bill, you have to pay for internet, you have cable in some capacity. We make some jokes in here on maybe borrowing your friends' passwords. More of the story is you're very busy training to be the world's top physicians. You probably don't have a ton of time to catch up on every doctor's favorite sitcom, which we know is Grey's Anatomy because it's so realistic, we know. So don't waste too much time or don't make this too much of a high bill, but something to keep in mind. We just put some cable items there. We use $300 per month. We assume that encompasses most things. Food, got to eat. We don't want you eating ramen noodles, but the lower you can keep your food bill, the better. But we understand if you're in a certain diet type, or maybe you have certain dietary restrictions, the food budget can shift a lot. For our family, for an example, we don't dine out all that often. Maybe it's because we have two crazy kids, but for the most part, we really enjoy cooking. We like making food. So our grocery bills, our food bills are very high, but our dining out bill is very low. So we want that to shift in and fit your exact circumstances too. While you're in training, all those, hey, we're having a meeting at noon to do a seminar on financial wellness with WealthKeel. There's free pizza. Go take advantage of free pizza. Take advantage of free sandwiches. Take advantage of those free meals. So just little things like that, they can go a long way. But we do want to account for food in your budget. The next thing is going to be disability insurance. While you're in training, the base plan for residents and fellows is always a $5,000 base plan. They don't even need to see financial requirements. As long as they know that you're a resident or a fellow, you're going to get a $5,000 policy, $5,000 per month benefit policy. For the most part, it's going to be around $150 per month. Males could be a little bit lower. Females could be a little bit higher because just a higher claims rate. If you're shopping around, try to find a insurance provider that offers unisex rates if you are a female. Unisex rates will help keep your rates down. So just something to keep in mind. You're looking for true ONOC. You want also guaranteed insurability going forward. So when you do become an attending, you don't need to do another health exam. It's already built into that current contract. So just a few tips in there. Coming down the home stretch, emergency fund. I don't care what you call it. You call it the rainy day fund, call it the emergency fund. Name some goals behind it. Give it some meaning. Give it something that you want to save towards. But for the emergency fund, we only put $100 per month. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but we want you to start to get in the habit of saving now. So start to put some money away. As that starts to accumulate, maybe you can make it into different buckets. Maybe you can say, hey, this is for a down payment. Maybe you're starting to save up for some of the interviews you're going to have before you're attending and you're flying all over the country. Whatever the example would be, just make sure you're starting to save and put some money away for different short-term goals. Again, emergency fund, rainy day, whatever you want to call it. Last but not least, everything else. We pretty much left a total of $24 over at the end, but we're assuming that there's about another $250 of wiggle room. So that could take a lot of different routes. Maybe you get a night out with your friends. Maybe you take a nice dinner with your friends. Maybe you're doing takeout more often. Whatever the example would be, we built in some wiggle room there. Budgets have to have some flexibility. They have to be agile. So there you have it. We wanted to walk through the budget. Like I said, take advantage of this free resource here. So as soon as you click on that, I'll just go here because it's already open. It's already built in here, but you can go in here. Once you download it, update the numbers to match your needs. So we wanted to walk through the budget, and I will stop here and I will get ready to transfer over to the final goodbyes here. But I hope you enjoyed walking through the budget, utilizing a little bit new technology here. So I hope you liked it. And there you have it. Building a budget for medical residents. As you could probably tell throughout that, it's one of my favorite topics. I get just an extra pep in my step. Whether I go back to when this whole journey started back in 2015, when we really started only working with physicians, to the actual excitement of teaching what I consider financial literacy, and while budgeting is so basic, it's so fundamental but so foundational to our goals for personal finance. So As always, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you learned something today. If you have questions, shoot us a note. But again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video.